Hello, my name is Hakon and welcome back to my channel and something only slightly different today. I don't know what I should call this video. Maybe it's a kind of channel update or a statement of intent, perhaps, is what I could call it. Now, if you have followed my channel, you will have noticed that, well, first of all, even just having watched a few of my videos, you will have noticed that I have a big bookshelf behind me. And on it are, unsurprisingly, a lot of books. And you know that I do the fighting fantasy gamebook playthroughs, of course. That's part of one of our main staples of my channel. And you may know that I also do poetry readings. Got the poetry over here. Um, and that's something I also quite enjoy doing, although it's a bit sporadic and there might be a bit of time passing from one time to the next. And about that, of course, a while back I realized that every time I posted a lot of poetry videos in a short span of time, a lot of people unsubscribed to my channel, and I thought that was a problem, and so I started a separate channel for poetry, and the idea was I could just upload as much poetry as possible as I wanted to that channel, and that would be fine. But I haven't really actually managed to do that since. I mean, I haven't had any sort of big stints of creating more poetry readings as I would have wanted. And then I realized that when you think about it, does it actually matter if I lose subscribers? And the answer is, of course, no, it doesn't. The ones who are interested in my content and the variety of content that is on my channel, they will stay anyway. The ones who actually are subscribers and will want to watch my videos, they will stay. And they will just ignore it if it's some video of mine that is something that isn't to their interest. For instance, every time I post experimental music, I'm sure a lot of my viewers are not into experimental electronic music, and yet that doesn't make them unsubscribe. Not in droves, anyway. So the conclusion is probably that I should maybe just delete that specific poetry channel of mine and just move everything and keep everything in my one main channel. I think that is the way to go for now. For a channel of my size, slowly growing, I think that is what makes the most sense. And although I really like the logo, by the way, but I might use that in some future poetry videos. Um, but yes, books. I was talking about books now. And in general, I do want to make more videos about books and literature and poetry than I have done until now. And this would, of course, be in addition to everything else I do on the channel. So there will be tutorials on music and especially the Zoya. There will be fighting fantasy gamebook videos. There will be videos where I create improvisational, experimental electronic music. I'm also practicing a piano piece just now that I will do as well because I have many years ago I made several piano compositions and I'm not good enough to play them myself mostly. But there is one piece I know I can do it. I just have to practice it. So there's things like that, and just random things every now and again as well. So different subjects, of course, and a bit of variety on my channel, as you know. So I do want to talk more about books and literature, and also I want to read more books as well, which is something I haven't really done as much as I used to. And when I say I used to, I mean when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was reading every day, quite a bit, for years and years and years, actually. And then I studied English and comparative literature at university level, and something happens, doesn't it, when you, well, there's two things that happen actually when you study literature. One of them is you are forced to read a lot of books and a lot of literature, a lot of poetry, etc., etc. And even though you quite enjoy it and you get exposed to a lot of really good quality stuff that may even be a lot better than what you were used to reading before, which changes your perspective on what is good and not, but that's a different story. Then another thing happens is it might be the quantity of it might be such that for a while after you may not want to read so much, if you see what I mean. So after I finished studying, I didn't spend as much time reading as I used to before. So I probably read fewer books after I studied than I did before. So I'm talking about the last 25 years. I've read fewer books than I did the sort of 10 years before that. So, yeah. This is something I want to rectify. So I've started reading a lot more now, and I've decided that one of the things that I actually will spend money on rather than on, say, synthesizers is books. So just an example now, the last several weeks, last few weeks, I've been reading these books, are the ones I've read the last few weeks. And if I go back a little bit further, I just these ones I've read those as well, and I've got lots of books that I have yet to read on my bookshelf. But you may also notice that there are in my poetry books over here there are bookmarks in many of them, and that's because I've started reading lots of them. I just haven't read them all the way through, because the thing about poetry books, especially collections, is that you can't read them in one go. You shouldn't really either. You want to sort of say you're sitting down one day and you sort of today I feel like reading Wordsworth, or today I feel like reading whoever. So Emily Bronte. Yeah, so it just depends what you're in the mood for, because it's so different. I mean, Emily Dickinson, very different to Wordsworth or Blake, for instance. So you really have to decide what you're in the mood for reading. And of course, one is always in the mood for reading Dorothy Parker, of course, because Dorothy Parker is brilliant. So yeah. So I do want to make more videos about books, literature. I want to I may talk about actually poetry writing as well, because that's something that I have done, and I also want to do more, by the way. So just to go through what the books I read lately, I read this one because there was so much talk about it. I had to read this one, Fresh Water for Flowers by Valerie Perrin. French book, translated into umpteen languages already, presumably, and I'm not sure there probably is a book, not a film deal going as well. I wouldn't be surprised. I do have some things I want to talk about, particularly. This is actually, when I read this, that's when I decided that I really, really have to start making videos about books, because I do have some issues with this book. Beautifully written, but some really, really serious issues need to be talked about. I'm not going to say anything about that now, but yeah. Then I realized I hadn't read Animal Farm, because we didn't read that in school, like lots of people do. Animal Farm. So I read Animal Farm, and then I read the grown-up version, as it were, 1984. And then because I was ordering some books from Norway, I got my first Haruki Murakami book, and I got it in Norwegian because the original is Japanese, so I suppose Norwegian as good as anything. Men Without Women, one of his collections of short stories. Really enjoyed reading it, so I bought a few more Murakami books that are on my bookshelf there, ready to be read. Read a book that only exists in Norwegian for the moment, Zeshan Shakar. Yellow Book is the title of this. His is an up-and-coming Norwegian writer who his debut novel was absolutely amazing. This is called Aunt Ulrikke's Road, or Street, which is a name of a street. Amazing book. I'm not going to say any details about these books now. And So those are the books I've just read just now the last few weeks, and I'm going to make more videos about them and talk a little bit about them, and probably starting with this one because yeah, there are things that need to be said. And I will post everything about books and literature and poetry on my main channel. Because, well, I think that's the right thing to do. Another video I want to make, by the way, is, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this, I don't think I mentioned this on my channel before, but a few years ago I took part in my first ever poetry competition and I won. So I'm going to read you the poem that I did for the competition and talk a bit about that as well. So yeah, I'm going to do more videos, literature, poetry and books. And when I say books, of course, I'm also talking about non-fiction, because other books that I really quite appreciate reading and that I would recommend and that I want to talk about as well are books by David Attenborough. Specifically, I've got quite a bit of a collection up here of David Attenborough books. I really love the way he writes, and of course, one of the great things about reading David Attenborough books is that you can hear his voice in your head when you're reading. Brilliant. Which also happens, by the way, if you read the autobiography of Brian Blessed, which I can also recommend, by the way. I don't have that here. I have that on ebook. So I've stopped buying ebooks now. I'm going back to paper. I'm definitely going back to paper. I think when I started playing the fighting fantasy game books again, I think that's when I realized that, to me, a big part of the experience of reading is leafing through a book. And of course, when you're doing a game book, it's even more so because you're leafing back and forth. It's the smell of a book, it's the feel of a book, how it feels in your hand. It's a tactile, physical object that you interact with, and of course that's tactility and that physical interaction is a part of the experience. You can't actually separate it completely from the words on the page. It becomes a different experience when you read it on paper than and on the screen. I think it does, and I'm usually okay reading electronic books, but paper books, it does have a little edge. There's a sort of something little extra that actually makes a difference to me, I think. Right, I don't want to go on too long. I just wanted to make this a sort of a statement of intent. I'm going to make more videos on books on my channel. So I hope you want to watch more videos about books. If you do want to watch more videos on books and literature and stuff, then yeah, please leave a comment about that, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.